Steiny and Goo were having a conversation about Kyle Shanahan, and there's this dynamic that's developed and been accepted, and to hear two other people have the conversation was helpful to me because I genuinely don't understand it. Steiny said a couple things in ways that I haven't. When he talked about how Kyle Shanahan is in his 6th year as a head coach. He is 45 years old. The first 2 years, you could argue, are just, hey, we're moving deck chairs around. So whether you want to count those or not, fine. But in those 4 years that he's actually really been like, okay, you're ready to rock, well, he's been in the NFC title game 3 of those 4 years, and everyone wants to hang around his neck that you haven't won the big one, and therefore that has created in the minds of many a clock that I don't think exists. Clock. Well, you better win it this year. And no, he doesn't have to win it this year. The truth of the matter is, I think Kyle Shanahan's going to be the head coach of the 49ers for a really, really long time. And he said that, and I've said that, and you're right. But I guess it then turns into a question. Why has that developed in the minds of some that there's a clock on the Kyle Shanahan era so quickly? 45 years old, year 6
right,
as a head coach. Is it because we knew him earlier when he was a coordinator, famous last name? Feel like it's been a longer head coach in this league than he has?
No.
I ask it as a question. Well, then you tell me.
The answer is that's what we're used to. We are used to, not only in this market, but in this league, coach gets the job, coach does well, coach doesn't do as well as we think he should do, coach goes on the hot seat, coach gets fired. That's the way it works in virtually 80% of the teams and the markets in this league. And you could go all the way across, and all the coaches who have more tenure than Kyle Shanahan, I do believe all of them have at least one Super Bowl now on their resume, including Andy Reid, who had to go to another place in order to get that very Super Bowl. So Andy Reid is a good example of a guy who had a good long run in Philly, and he was more successful than Kyle's been, and he never won the big one. And then he got to the point where he had to go, and now he went, and he's gotten 2, and now he is a made man. So I think that's kind of what we're used to in the NFL. And if you go through all the tenure of all the coaches, and we've been through this, I think there are 6 guys who have longer tenure than Kyle Shanahan, and I believe all of them have a Super Bowl. And then the guys who were hired the same year as him, it's him, McVay, and McDermott. McVay has one. McDermott doesn't. And, I mean, you look at his year, this year, he's not on the hot seat, but I think he's under the same sort of scrutiny that Kyle is.
I wonder. I don't feel that. But then again, he's in Buffalo, New York, so I have no idea if there's something locally, but I doubt it, especially the way that market is. A Buffalo Bills game is like the biggest gathering of people that area knows.
Sure.
Week to week. They love their team like no other. Josh Allen's the most popular athlete. Probably since Jim Kelly. I mean, I don't know. I don't get that there's any sort of a bad vibe going on with the Buffalo Bills.
Not yet.
Week
Not
1
yet.
loss set aside.
There are 5 coaches with a longer tenure than Kyle Shanahan. And between those 5, they have 11 Super Bowls.
Okay.
So Bill's got the 6, and then it's Tomlin 1, Harbaugh 1, Pete 1, Andy 2, and then you get to Sean, Kyle, and then... Sean and Kyle.
Right, but wouldn't you guess, and I don't know this, you maybe have it in front of me, I don't. Like, the coaches that run that process that you just threw out there, because they came in and went 4-12. Like, that's how you get fired. You don't get fired.
Right.
You don't get fired or have a clock get put on you when you just keep winning the division every year and going to the playoffs.
I think Tomlin's a good example.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since they won it, but they win every year. They have actually never been under 500 under Mike Tomlin. So
I'm in 9-8 last year, but yes, correct.
Fine. There's no
accurate.
There's no 3-13 or 3-14 stink bomb in his resume. They win.
Yeah.
And John Harbaugh, the same. I don't know if he's ever had a sub 500 year, but It hasn't been that many. They've always been pretty competitive. And I'll punch it up because I was just thinking about that in terms of Harbaugh and what he's done. And the worst year, he had a 5-11 in 2015, and he had 8-9 in 2021. Other than that, he had a 10-6. Yep. He's got a 14-2. He's got an 11-5. They've been very, very good.
Good coach. Yeah, they're good
coaches. Good
coach,
good program, good GM, good team.
Absolutely.
And that's what Kyle has. So I'm with you in terms of, like, he's not on any seat. He's in a hammock right now with a lemonade.
It's just like my question is, how did we get here so fast? How did we get here so fast? And again, I'm not trying to. Kyle's not on the hot seat,
right?
And I know that like the stark majority of the people who are listening to us right now are big fans of Kyle Shanahan. I don't mean that he's on the hot seat. He's not getting fired. But this idea of like, well, okay, you better win the Super Bowl this year. No. He does not have to win the Super Bowl this year. It just hasn't.
No.
I'd love it if he did.
Yeah.
That would be great.
And
that would be a lot of fun.
I'm giving him 2 years, actually probably 3, because Brock Purdy won't, even if you sign Brock Purdy after the next 2 years, and let's assume they do, that contract doesn't kick in until after that 4th year. So you've got 3 years of Brock Purdy on the cheap. That, to me, is the Kyle Shanahan window.
The extension can come after next season.
But it wouldn't start until year 5.
Correct. But he would have to sign it. Yes, he would have to sign it.
So my point is, you've got year 2 of Brock this year, year 3, and year 4, you've got 3 years of cheap Brock to win a Super Bowl. At that point, if he hasn't won it, I'm not saying Kyle's got to go.
Yeah,
but that's his window. That's his best window, in my opinion.
Maybe his best window. I do think there's
after that window, Trent Williams will likely be gone.
Yeah, but
George Kittle will be gone.
But if you got a good program, you're planning ahead and you reboot and retool and you just talking about the Ravens and the Steelers. Like they've had to reboot, they've had to retool, they've had to switch their quarterback. Like there's all of that. But I do wonder about this, and this is more Brock Purdy related. I wonder if there isn't going to be a growing idea that you got to go find a QB on a rookie deal. Now, there are some set-asides. If you are fantabulous, okay, we'll pay you. Mahomes, 10 years, please don't ever leave. We love you. We're going to be a contender if you're on the team.
And you saw what happened with Mahomes, right? He reworked his deal.
Reworked the deal and got an unprecedented payout.
And you saw who his agent wasn't, right?
No, I didn't. Is it not Lee?
No.
Oh.
Bye-bye, Steinberg.
Yeah. That originally, if you look at the deal, and there are a lot of business of sports type people who looked at the deal that Mahomes signed when he did, and they're like, why would you do that? It was, yes, the highest paid player in the game at the time, but this is rather, I think, simplistic for everyone to understand. When you sign a 10-year deal, you're going to get lapped 15 times. You're going to go 6 years into that, and you're going to be the 12th highest paid QB in the game.
Even though it was backloaded.
Right.
He was making $45 million, I think, in the last year, which would have been like top 12 maybe.
Right, and Herbert,
top 20.
Herbert's like, bye-bye.
All of them.
I've never even won a playoff game. See you later. I'm making more than you now.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, it was not a great deal. It was not a great deal when you look at the life of it, in my opinion. But I do wonder, if you're not Mahomes, and I'll give that to a few others. I think Josh Allen is one of them. That's a little bit of a weird time to talk about Burrow because he's hurt. And he's at these weird starts. I'm not even sure if Jalen Hurts fits this category yet. If you're not uber elite, is it smarter for a team to just go, you know what? We're going to try to regenerate every 5 or 6 years. Like the Minnesota Vikings are about to do this. He's good. They make the playoffs. They're moving on because they're like, we're not going to pay him and Justin Jefferson $32 million a year for Justin and 55 for Kirk, and we've got no good players on defense. So we would rather reboot. And you know what? It's crazy to say after week 2, but I said it yesterday, and I think we could quickly get to a spot where this makes all kinds of sense. Dude, Vikings, Jets, get together. Get Kirk to New York. And the Vikings would be helped right now to only win 4 games this year. Dude, end up in the top 5. Look at the Pac-12. You got like 6 players to go to the league just in that conference.
Quarterbacks,
Get one of those guys. Get him for cheap. and let them throw to Justin Jefferson next year. Unless you're really good, then does it make more sense to do essentially what the 49ers are doing? Now, they're a steroided version of it because their QB is not even making $1 million.
Right.
But is it better to just do that? Like, find yourself a good young QB and surround him with amazingness.
And we saw the movement this year in that the last draft, the first quarterback went number 20. So I think you're starting to see NFL teams wake up to that reality. Now, when you get Caleb on the board, and he might be Mahomes, he might be one of these generational guys.
He might be a bust.
Right, but
no clue. But I hear you.
The thought that he might be the dude, like Trevor Lawrence, he was a legitimate quarterback at Clemson. You were going to take him number 1. I get that. But these other guys, like last year, Kenny Pickett at number 20, fine. That's not a reach. I mean, it's a quarterback in the first round, so you get that fifth-year option, but it's not like you really used first-round top-end capital on him.
I also don't think we can give the 49ers credit for being just like so ahead of the curve on this, because this was their game plan. Hey, Jimmy is not uber elite, so let's go get a young guy, and we'll go from there, and they totally whiffed. And then it got saved because they did get a really good guy on an even cheaper contract the following year with the last pick in the draft. You can't replicate that. That's not the formula, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
It worked out, but nobody's going to try to replicate that.
But they tried to do it with Jeff Driscoll and C.J. Beathard. They traded up to get Beathard, and Nick Mullins was undrafted, but they tried to do that with these guys. So it's not an exact science, but what they did with Brock Purdy, I would expect other teams to try to emulate in terms of what Brock can do outside of 40 time and pro day and combine and hand size and all the rest of that nonsense.